बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम। नाज़रीन अस्सलाम वालेकुम। एक खुसूसी ट्रांसमिशन लेके हम आपकी खिदमत में हाज़िर हैं। जैसे कि आप सब जानते हैं कि कल पूरी दुनिया में मुसलमानों ने मेराज मुस्तफ़ा मनाई। उसी सिलसिले में डीएम डिजिटल से कल भी आपने सारा दिन और सारी रात पाकिस्तान से और यूके से लाइव ट्रांसमिशन देखी। दुनिया भर के जो खूबसूरत नात ख्वान थे वो पाकिस्तान से और यहाँ से मदा सराई करते रहे। इसी सिलसिले की एक कड़ी है। हम प्रोग्राम के आगाज़ से पहले मेराज मुस्तफ़ा का एक बड़ा खूबसूरत केक है जो डॉक्टर साहब ने बड़ी मोहब्बत से और बड़ी अकीदत से मंगवाया है। और हमारी बड़ी खुशकिस्मती है कि हमारे साथ एमपी जॉर्ज गैलवे साहब भी मौजूद हैं, लॉर्ड मेयर मैनचेस्टर जनाब नईमुल हसन साहब भी मौजूद हैं। तो प्रोग्राम का आगाज़ करने से पहले हम मेराज मुस्तफ़ा का एक केक काटेंगे, उसके बाद चंद लम्हों के बाद फिर हम प्रोग्राम का बाकायदा आगाज़ करना चाहेंगे। मैं चाहूँगा कि कुछ अल्फाज अगर लॉर्ड मेयर नईमुल हसन साहब कहना चाहें थे। जी सर।
बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम। जॉर्ज गैलवे एमपी, डॉक्टर साहब और हमारे जितने भी व्यूअर्स हैं सबको वेलकम टू यू एंड अस्सलाम वालेकुम। It is and also to welcome you to Manchester to celebrate this with us. It's a great pleasure to have you here with us. It's an honor for ourselves as well to receive you here and celebrate with us this and cut the cake as well. So I'm going to invite you to join us to do the honor and cut this cake with us.
Let's all do it together, why don't we? Have many hands on the dagger.
Okay. Wonderful. Thank you very much, George, and thank you very much to Dr. Saab, DM Digital Television. It says DM Digital Television here. Anyway, I don't know whether the camera will catch or not. This is a beautiful cake, and we're going to enjoy. But my apology to the viewers. You won't be able to enjoy with us, but we will remember you when we eat this.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum to everyone. I welcome George here and Lord Mayor Sahib, welcome everybody else as well. I want to also say thank you to Regal Sweets as well, who had made this cake, baked this cake, wonderful cake for us every time. Thank you very much, and thank you again.
जी नाज़रीन, डॉक्टर साहब ने ये केक बड़ी मोहब्बत से आप जैसे जानते हैं मंगवाया है। रीगल स्वीट से ये आया है, हम उनके भी शुक्रिया अदा करते हैं। यहाँ पे कोई भी ओकेजन हो तो हम वहीं से अपने केक्स वगैरह मंगवाते हैं। चंद लम्हों के बाद हाज़िर होते हैं और फिर हम इसका प्रोग्राम का बाज़ाब्ता आगाज़ करेंगे। हाज़िर होते हैं इस कमर्शियल ब्रेक के बाद। जी नाज़रीन, वेलकम बैक आफ्टर द ब्रेक। ब्रेक से पहले जिस तरह आपने देखा कि हमने मेराज मुस्तफ़ा का जो केक था वो हमने काटा। नॉर्मल प्रैक्टिस में आप देखते हैं कि हम मुसलमान ही सिर्फ ये काम करते हैं, लेकिन चूँकि हम एक मल्टी कल्चरल सोसाइटी में रहते हैं, यहाँ पे बहुत सारे ऐसे लोग हैं जो मुसलमानों से ज़्यादा हेल्प करते हैं। मेरे साथ आज स्टूडियो में मेरी बड़ी खुशकिस्मती है कि मौजूद हैं जॉर्ज गैलवे साहब, दो कि डिडंट अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट आई सेड, but still I would like to welcome you on DM Digital, sir. Lovely to have you here.
Thank you so much.
It's my pleasure. मेरे साथ दूसरे मेहमान हैं प्रोग्राम में जनाब अरशद अली साहब। इनका ताल्लुक भी ब्रेडफोर्ड से है। इंसानी हुकूक पे बहुत ज़्यादा इन्होंने काम किया हुआ है और अभी जो कॉन्वॉय टू कश्मीर है जिस पे आज हम बात करने वाले हैं कि ये क्या कॉज है और इसको कौन लीड करेगा और कैसे ये लोग यहाँ से कश्मीर पहुँचेंगे। तो मैं शो बिगिन करूँगा जॉर्ज गैलवे साहब से, उसके बाद फिर मैं टाइम टू टाइम मैं फिर अरशद साहब से भी इसकी इनपुट लेता रहूँगा। हमारा ये शो चूँकि गैलवे साहब उर्दू या हमारी ज़ुबान नहीं समझते हैं, सो देयरफॉर हमें उनके साथ जब हम बात करेंगे तो हम कोशिश करेंगे कि हम अंग्रेज़ी में कम्युनिकेट करें और अरशद साहब से जब हम बात करेंगे तो हम उर्दू में ही बात करेंगे। जॉर्ज, वेरी वार्म वेलकम टू द शो।
Thank you, sir.
You've started this journey of convoys back in 90s, late summer of 90s to Iraq. That was the first one, I believe.
That was the first one, yeah.
Then in 2008, you went to Gaza for the first time, and then to Kashmir. Why to Kashmir?
Well, it's a good question. I guess I like driving. I like driving long distances, and I'm persuaded of the political propaganda and publicity and campaigning value of convoys. I can tell you that the 1999 road trip from Big Ben to Baghdad, when we arrived in Baghdad in 1999, it was the biggest welcome ever afforded to any Britisher anywhere in the world, any time in history. 3 million Iraqis turned out, 3 million, onto the streets of Baghdad to welcome our red London bus arriving. And it can be seen on YouTube, the video of the whole
Which was
thing.
1964 bus.
It was a 1964 red Routemaster, you're
Gave
right.
you a tough time as well
And
during the
I
traveling.
was just about to say, being British, we were particularly proud that we arrived exactly on time with a 1964 bus. Now my point is, all the way to Baghdad, the media coverage of this red London bus was opening people's minds, eyes, and opening them to the argument to do something for the people of Iraq under siege. If we hadn't driven, it wouldn't have happened. Arshad and myself traveled many times to Gaza on the subsequent convoys after 2008-9, and he can testify that the same thing happened. By just driving there, you attract attention, and by attracting attention, you get people thinking and talking and emulating. Because since our convoys to Gaza, everybody's now running convoys to Gaza. Alhamdulillah, the people in Gaza have a convoy arriving every other day, or every other week anyway. So emulation is the sincerest form of flattery.
Let's start. Let's go a bit back. Start from your first trip when you made it to Iraq. What motivated you that I need to go to Iraq, and there is nothing going in Iraq and there's nothing come out from Iraq? Very tough time. It's a war time, and driving from all the way from London to Baghdad and doing something. Although before that you brought a little girl, I believe Maryam, to Glasgow, and she recovered.
She did.
And what was the motivation behind?
Well, I've never believed that starving people's children to punish their parents for having a dictator that they didn't vote and couldn't remove was a moral policy. It was described at the time by an American congressman, David Bonnier, as infanticide masquerading as politics. And that's what we were doing. We were deliberately murdering Iraqi children to punish Iraq for having a dictator that they didn't choose, and that in fact we had a part in choosing. Britain and America played a significant role in the coming to power of Saddam Hussein, and indeed making him strong, encouraging him to invade Iran in 1980, for example. So it was just a thoroughly immoral policy. But once I'd been there and smelt the death, seen the mass funerals of little children in little boxes, an Iraqi child was dying every 6 minutes of every day and night before the oil for food program was finally introduced, which merely mitigated the death rate a little. But every 6 minutes of every day and night is a big mountain of dead Iraqi children. And if you're in Whitehall or Washington and turning your face away, you don't have to look at it. But if you go to Iraq and see it and smell it, then it becomes a wholly different thing, and it's completely unacceptable to me.
What was the outcome of that convoy, which you took it from London to Baghdad?
Well, I'd like to say it succeeded. It didn't. We succeeded in rousing mass opposition to the sanctions, but we didn't stop them. We campaigned under the slogan, "No war on Iraq," and we failed because there was a war. There is a small satisfaction that now everybody in the country, most people in the world, agree that we were right and Bush and Blair were wrong. And most people in the country, indeed the world, think that the invasion and occupation of Iraq was a terrible disaster, maybe the biggest disaster in modern history. the reverberations of which we still suffer from today, with fanaticism, extremism, and so on, all of which were greatly enhanced by the invasion and occupation of Iraq. But that's a small satisfaction, because 1 million Iraqis paid with their lives for the crimes of Bush and Blair.
So if we talk about today, was that done in 90s or still something going on when we talk about you and Iraq? Do you still have any contact with those people?
I
you
don't.
Still doing anything for them, or
No,
that was it?
I don't have any connection with Iraq, and I don't expect if I went there I'd be very well received by the people now running Iraq, because the false synonym that if you oppose sanctions and war on Iraq, that means you're with the dictator, is just that, a false synonym. I was not with Saddam, but I was not prepared to turn my face away from children being massacred through starvation to punish the Iraqis for having Saddam. It's just not acceptable.
Why you never felt like going back again when they imposed the war on Iraq and when everything was happening? Why you didn't?
Well, I became the leader of the anti-war movement in Britain. We built a huge movement. More than 1 million, maybe 2 million people marched in London on February 15th, 2003. But we didn't stop the war. No, my job is here to oppose imperialist crimes here, because this is where many of them originate, or at least find their echo. But no, I wouldn't be welcome in today's Iraq, because the then Iraqi opposition, now the Iraqi government, don't regard me as a friend of theirs, and they're right, I'm not.
All right, let's move to Gaza. 2008 Christmas time, that's when they start bombing
Operation
Gaza.
Cast Lead,
yeah. You start your protest in London, in Kensington, in front of Israeli embassy. That's when you decided, or was it pre-planned?
No, it's a good question that you ask. I literally decided it a moment before I announced it. I was there on the platform. There was 100,000 people in front of me. They were all dressed up, but with nowhere to go. We'd come to the embassy, we'd shouted our slogans. But I believe that action speaks louder than words. So it came to me that I should try to repeat what I had done in the 90s for Iraq. Try to make a convoy. And so I announced, I'm going to leave here on Valentine's Day.
14th of February 2009.
February 14th, 2009.
Yes.
And if any of you want to come with me, all you need to do is bring your vehicle and we'll go together.
From 1990 to Iraq, from London to Baghdad, driving in 1964, just one bus,
Yes.
228 cars left from London.
Yes.
How did it felt?
It was one of the greatest moments of my life, to be honest. Both the leaving of Hyde Park and the arrival, of course, in Gaza after many, many difficulties.
And how much was the aid approximately with you guys?
Well, by the time we got there, it would have been in excess of $10 million worth of
$10 million.
aid. Because when we were in Libya,
yeah, that's. I was going to ask you, how did that convoy got doubled?
well, this has to be acknowledged. I'm not a supporter of Gaddafi. I never met Gaddafi. I never met any of his family. And I'm glad I never did. But no one can take this away from him. The Libyan leadership asked when we arrived in Tripoli, how many vehicles do you have? We said we have 120 vehicles. And they said, well, now you have 240. They doubled it. And they doubled it with big trucks full of aid. And this is to their eternal credit and should be set aside and against any crimes and sins that they committed.
All right. We'll talk more about it. We've got one caller on the line. जी, अस्सलाम वालेकुम.
वालेकुम सलाम.
जी सर, कौन कहाँ से बात कर रहे हैं?
जी मैं अली अकबर अर्ज कर रहा हूँ लंदन से.
जी अली अकबर साहब, क्या कहना चाहेंगे?
जी मैं जॉर्ज गैलवे से बात करना चाहता हूँ.
Please go ahead.
हेलो.
जी 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 बोलो.
Hello, Mr. George Galloway. I'm your big fan.
MashaAllah, thank you.
thank you very much for our ceremony, and I want to appreciate for you always talking on behalf of Pakistani against Altaf Hussain.
Yes.
I
Well,
much appreciate for that, because you have
چلیں بہت شکریہ آپ کی کال کا. یہ میرے پاس سوالات ہیں لیٹر آن جب ہم شو کے دوسرے حصے میں آئیں گے. آئی ایم گوئنگ ٹو آسک سم کوسچنز. واٹس دا ریلیشن بٹوین ہم اینڈ پاکستان, کیوں اتنی جو ہے وہ ان کو پاکستان سے کھچاؤ ہے. I'll move on with your permission to ارشد صاحب. ارشد صاحب کیا حال چال ہے آپ کا؟ خیریت سے؟
السلام علیکم, کیسے ہیں آپ؟ ٹھیک ہے.
چلے سو کائنڈ آف یو آج یہاں پہ آج تشریف لائے آپ. یہ بتائیے گا کہ یہ جو کنوائے ٹو کشمیر ہے, اس کا آئیڈیا کہاں سے ڈیولپ ہوا, کس جگہ سے پہلا سٹیپ شروع ہوا اس آئیڈیا کے لیے؟
سب سے پہلے تو السلام علیکم آپ کو, اور سننے والے تمام جو ہیں ان کو ہمارا سلام پہنچے, اور ہیپی برتھ ڈے ڈی ایم ڈیجیٹل کو, کیونکہ آج 8 سال ہو گئے ہیں. اینڈ ویل ڈن ریگل فار دیٹ ونڈرفل کیک. یہ جو سلسلہ ہے یہ کنوائے ٹو کشمیر کا, جیسے آپ نے ابھی تک کہا ہے کہ جب 2009 میں غازہ میں وہ اٹیک ہوا تو گیلوے صاحب وہاں کھڑے ہوئے تھے ایمبیسی کے سامنے. انہوں نے کہا کہ ہر کوئی باتیں کرتا ہے, باتیں کر کر گھر چلے جاتے ہیں اور اس کے بعد کچھ بھی نہیں ہوتا.
And he repeatedly said that their action speaks louder than words.
Action speaks louder. Or this is what I'm going to do, کہ میں اپنی گاڑی میں دوائیاں ڈال کر تو بائی روڈ جا رہا ہوں, کوئی آنا چاہتا ہے تو آئے ہمارے ساتھ. تو مجھے یاد ہے ٹھنڈی سی دن تھا, اس دن برف پڑی ہوئی تھی, لیکن سینکڑوں لوگوں نے ہاتھ اوپر کیا. انہوں نے کہا کہ آپ اگر جا رہے ہیں تو ہم بھی آپ کے ساتھ جائیں گے. ویسے ہی جب ایک بار گئے, پھر 2 بار 3 بار, 6 کنوائز 6 بار مسٹر گیلوے نے جو ارینج کیے ہیں غازہ میں, جو لوگ گئے ہیں, ہزاروں لوگ ہو کر آئے ہیں, اور انہوں نے بات کی جو کہ کتنے مال کی قیمت.
آپ بھی کبھی گئے ہیں ان کے ساتھ غازہ؟
جی ہاں, میں ان کے لیے ان کے ساتھ ہی ہوتا ہوں ہمیشہ شروع سے. تو ون کرٹیسزم لوگ جب کہتے تھے کہ ویل پالسٹائن جاتے, وائی ناٹ پاکستان, وائی ناٹ کشمیر. تو وین مسٹر گیلوے گاٹ الیکٹڈ یہاں براڈفورڈ ویسٹ میں, تو یہاں ہمارے سب کشمیری لوگ ہیں, تو ان کی ڈیمانڈ تھی کہ اوکے گائز, آپ لوگوں نے کشمیر کے لیے ہسٹری بھی ہے ان کے, ہلال پاکستان, ہلال قائد اعظم, ان نے پہلے بھی ہسٹری میں کافی کام کیا ہے. تو لوگوں کی ایکسپیکٹیشن تھی کہ اب ہمارے ایم پی ہیں تو ہمارا یہ مسئلہ ہے, جیسے پالسٹائن لانگ ٹرم ایک مسئلہ ہے جو حل نہیں ہو رہا ہے, اسی طرح کشمیر بھی لانگ ٹرم جو ہے وہ مسئلہ ہے جس کا وہ ابھی بھی ڈسپیوٹ ہے, اس کا کوئی مسئلہ حل نہیں ہو رہا ہے. تو لوگوں کی یہ ڈیمانڈ تھی. تو انہوں نے کہا کہ ٹھیک ہے, اب میں یہاں کا ممبر آف پارلیمنٹ ہوں, آپ لوگوں کو سروس دوں گا میں, جو کچھ آپ کو چاہیے وہی کروں گا میں. تو انہوں نے پھر اناؤنس کیا کہ جیسے ہم غازہ کنوائے کی شکل میں لے کر گئے تھے, وہاں تو ہم چیریٹی لے کر گئے تھے, لیکن یہ ایک پولیٹیکل ایشو ہے جو کافی سالوں سے سولو نہیں ہوا ہے, اور انہوں نے یہ ٹھان لی کہ اب ہم ویسی ایک موبائل ڈیمونسٹریشن کی شکل میں یہاں سے چلیں گے.
اس کی ایک سمبولک ویلیو ہوگی,
ایک سمبولک ویلیو ہے, میڈیا ہمارے ساتھ ہوگا. اور جس ملک میں جس کنٹری میں ہم گزریں گے, ان کی ہی لینگویج میں, ان کی زبان میں ہم یہ کمپین کریں گے کہ جسٹس فار دا پیپل آف کشمیر, ان کو جو ہیومن رائٹس اٹروسٹیز ہو رہی ہیں ان کو بند ہونا چاہیے. دوسری بات ضروری ہے کہ کشمیری لوگوں کو وعدہ ہوا ہے کہ یہ جو ہے نا یونائٹڈ نیشن کی طرف سے کہ ان کو اپنی مرضی سے اپنا وہ پلیبسائٹ دیا جائے گا تاکہ وہ اپنی مرضی سے اپنا وطن,
رائٹ آف سیلف ڈٹرمنیشن. بالکل, ہمارے ساتھ ایک کالر بھی ان کو پروگرام میں شامل کرتے ہیں. جی السلام علیکم.
ہیلو السلام علیکم.
جی واسطہ
Azhar speaking from Ashton. My question is to Mr. George Galloway, that as the Israelis have bombarded the Palestinians, Lebanonians and Syrians and Iraqis, why we can't behave with them and bombard them and destroy them in the same way? It's the right time now.
چلے بہت شکریہ آپ کی کال کا. یہ
بہت شکریہ.
چلیں, یہ this is not a solution. War against war is not a solution. What he was
saying. We want less war, fewer war. We want less bombs, fewer bombs. The need now is for the world to come to the aid of the Palestinian people, politically, materially, in every respect, and we could do it. This is first and foremost an Arab issue, Secondly, a Muslim and Christian issue, because Jerusalem is the holy city, is in chains, it's in captivity, it's being ethnically cleansed, it's being Judaized, with settlers clearing Christians and Muslims from the old city. And it's a matter for all who love liberty and hate human rights abuses and so on. We need the whole world to come behind the Palestinians.
I would like to repeat one of your statements while you were in London protesting against all this. You've said it that blood in Palestine or blood in Iraq, it has the same color.
Indeed.
So,
and one of the big problems that we have in life in Iraq and elsewhere is that the blood of Muslims is cheaper than the blood of others. This is the truth in the world today. If the individual alleged to have savagely, like a beast, murdered the English soldier in Woolwich in London, if he had done that in Syria, William Hague would have paid for it. The British government is paying for people like that to do things like that in Syria. But of course it happened in London, which is a different matter, and that's a fundamental double standard that we carry around with us as a very big burden in this world.
Arshad mentioned before about Gaza that many times you guys went to Gaza, you took a big aid with you as well. How was the response from Palestinian people there? How did they feel? Did they feel that another American or British coming to help us, or for spying?
Actually, virtually the entire population of Gaza came out to receive our convoy. There's 1.8 million Palestinians in Gaza under siege, and it's the most densely populated place on the earth. It's only 21 miles long, it's only 3 miles wide, with 1.8 million people jammed in what David Cameron himself called a giant prison camp. So you can imagine the sense of relief when we finally battled our way through with our convoy. Not so much for the material aid, because although valuable, that material aid is a drop in the ocean. It doesn't solve the problem of 1.8 million people. No matter how many convoys you bring in, you're not going to solve that problem. But the relief that they felt was actually more about that we had arrived safely, I would say, because we had so many difficulties on the way, literally fighting our way through Egypt under Mubarak, fighting our way through Tunisia, then under the dictator Ben Ali.
And also Algerian border, I believe, was closed for more than 6 years.
It was rusted, closed. On both occasions, by
they
the way.
They couldn't even left the barrier because
they had to blowtorch it open. And that's the second time that happened to me. Because when we took the convoy, the Red London bus to Baghdad, the same thing happened. They had to blowtorch the same border. So it only opened twice in the period of 10 years or so, and both times for convoys led by me.
All right. You have a history with Kashmir. 1990 was the first time when you went to line of control, and as close as you can go.
Yes.
How did you felt there when you went there? What did you experience?
Well, your viewers know better than anyone the suffering of the people of Kashmir and the injustice that they have been dealt. So let me concentrate on the insult that's added to the injury, the compounding of all that suffering by the fact that nobody appears to know very much about their suffering. At least with the Palestinians, everybody in the world knows that they're suffering. Everybody in the world knows that if you don't address that suffering, this problem is going to continue and poison the body politic in the world. That's some compensation. In the case of Jammu and Kashmir, the people are suffering actually on a larger scale. Almost 100,000 martyrs have fallen in the Intifada in Kashmir, in the occupied territory, and that number is far greater than the number of Palestinians who've fallen in the same period. But in the case of Kashmir, nobody cares about it. No politicians talk about it. No governments have summits about it. No one sends convoys to try to relieve it. It's a terrible insult to add to the injury of the people of the valley. So, as my brother Arshad just said, I think in Urdu, when I came to Bradford, came to be the MP there just over a year ago, people asked me, well, you've done a lot for Palestine, you've done a lot for Iraq, why don't you do the same for Kashmir?
Kashmir.
So I said, all right, I will.
Even in one of the elections, one of your opponent, he said it that don't vote for him because, first of all, he's not Muslim and he's not Kashmiri. And in his response, you said it that you're not more Muslim or Kashmiri than I am. Was that just a political statement, or did you actually meant that?
No, I mean, I would never have made that statement but for the fact that one of my opponents was openly campaigning, that people should vote for him because he was a Muslim and a Kashmiri. Well, if you want to calibrate my record on defense of Muslims here in Britain and abroad, on Muslim causes, on the way I live my life, and if you want to compare my role in the 1980s in the restoration of democracy in Pakistan, for which I was awarded the Hilal-e-Qadi-Azam, my role in the 1990s and until now on Kashmir, for which I was awarded the Hilal-e-Pakistan. If you compare my record with my opponents, there was no comparison. And I'm glad to say that the vast majority of Pakistani, Kashmiri, Muslim voters in Bradford West voted for me, voted for the white guy.
Yeah, we could see
which
that.
Just goes, it's great to their credit, you see. People say that Muslims want to vote in a bloc and so on. They had the option to vote for a Pakistani, but they voted for the white guy with blue eyes because they could see that what matters is not the color of your skin or the professed nature of your religion, but the reality.
In regards to your election, there's one interesting fact as well that many people, or rather I should say some people, they became millionaires as well in your election.
Yes, I mean,
no one expected that Labour will lose.
I don't believe in gambling and could never gamble, but if I had believed in it, I would be very rich today because the opening price at the bookmakers was 200 to 1.
1 to 200?
Yes. Oh. So if you put on £1, you got 200 back. If you put on 1,000, you got 200,000 back. But by the grace of God, we don't gamble.
All right, we've got one caller on the line. Ji, Assalamu alaikum.
हाँ जी, मिस्टर गैलवे को मैं ये चाहता हूँ कि आप बताएं कि ये जितनी प्रोग्रेस कर रहे हैं ये सारे मिलके ये टीम, तो इसकी किए के ऊपर जो पानी फेरते हैं, जो आगे से जो ग्रुप्स इनके अगेंस्ट होते हैं, या इन्हीं के मुल्क से देखें जो फैक्ट्रियाँ वेपन बनाकर शिया सुन्नी तकसीम करते हैं, तो ये इनको चाहिए कि अपनी कौमी असम्बली में या इनकी जो है असेंबली में इस बात पर भी बात डिबेट करें कि ये जो मैं प्रोग्रेस करके पैसा इकट्ठा करके लोगों की हेल्प करता हूँ, वहाँ पे डेवलपमेंट करता हूँ, तो फिर वहाँ पे ये जो अगर जो पॉलिटिक्स करते हैं, लड़ाइयाँ करवाते हैं,
चले मेरे अच्छा, आपकी आवाज़ में बड़ी डिस्टॉर्शन है, अगर आप दोबारा ट्राई कर लें, because I could not really understand what you have said. We're talking about the Kashmir convoy.
Yes.
The first question about this convoy is that how many days will it take from Bradford to as closest as you can get to?
21 days is the time that we are scheduling. That's of course if you're not driving back. If you're going to fly back, it'll take you 21 days. So anyone coming with us needs to have that order of time available to them. They need to have a roadworthy vehicle that can do the distance, which is considerable, though not as long as here to Baghdad. And they have to have the money to buy their own food and fill their own vehicles with their own petrol and so on. And they have to have a tent or sleep in their vehicle, or they can sleep anywhere they like as long as they're on parade the next morning when the whole convoy leaves. Because we're keeping British time on this convoy. There'll be no slacking. and everyone has to stick together. Otherwise, it's not a convoy. It's just a group of people going individually to as close to Kashmir as we are able to get.
All right. One more important question, which people will be wondering, that what route will you be taking? Have you already decided, or is it going to be
More or less.
another Gaza that you went there and you decided, and that's it, George Galloway is going?
Yeah, no, we have a basic route that it will, of course, be England, France, Italy, Greece, Turkey, Iran, and into Balochistan, and then towards the line of control, and hopefully across it. Ash has the map here. I don't know if the camera can pick it up, but you can see the distance is considerable. But the good thing is that we'll not be traveling through any hostile territory.
All right. I would like to move on to Arshad साहब. आप ये एक मैप दिखा रहे थे जो है अच्छा ये तो स्टैंडर्ड मैप है जो मतलब यहाँ से रूट है मतलब लाइक जॉर्ज वाज सेइंग कि फ्रॉम डोवर टू फ्रांस एंड देन टू
France, Italy, Greece, Turkey,
then
Iran,
Turkey,
Balochistan.
Iran and Balochistan. All right. We'll talk about this. Just got one caller. Ji, assalamu alaikum.
My salam to George Galloway and yourself and all your listeners.
Alaikum
I'm
salam.
Riyaz from Nottingham. I really, really appreciate the work and the effort George Galloway is putting for the oppressed people of Kashmir. I really salute him.
Thank you, sir.
And not only for Kashmir, we all know what he does for the oppressed people all over the world.
Thank you, sir.
May God give us many, many George Galloways.
चले बहुत शुक्रिया आपकी कॉल का. Thank you very much for your call. Yes, you were mentioning about the route.
Yes, and the good thing is there's no hostile territory. When we went to Gaza, we had to fight our way through dictatorships that didn't want us to be there. That's not going to be the case here. We'll be welcomed at every turn. We probably won't attract that much interest when we get to France, though our process through England before we get to France will be colourful, and we'll tour the areas where we're strongest and rally people who'll join us. But when we get to France, we probably have a quiet time. Ditto in Italy and Greece. But when we reach Turkey,
one question before Turkey, that since this transmission is going to most of the countries, if someone wants to join you at any part of Europe or in Turkey, can they join you from there as well? Or?
Yes, but they will have to have registered with us in advance. They can't just show up because they could be anybody. We need to maintain discipline and order on this convoy. That means we need to know who's joining it. But they can join it anywhere along the way, but they must let us know first. And so the drill is to get yourself a roadworthy vehicle that can make a 21-day journey and raise enough money that you can support yourself and your vehicle on the way, and register with us, pay a small
So it will not be funded by George Galloway?
No, it won't be funded by anybody. It'll have to be funded entirely by the drivers themselves.
All right.
So don't imagine that this is a charitable...
This is a fun trip.
It's not a charitable enterprise at all. It's a political and propaganda exercise to draw attention to the suffering of the people of Kashmir and the legitimacy of their demands.
नाज़रीन, आप ये खुसूसी प्रोग्राम देख रहे हैं जॉर्ज गैलवे साहब के साथ. अरशद साहब हमारे साथ मौजूद हैं. मैं भी एक बात क्लियर कर देना चाहता हूँ कि आप कहीं से भी इनको ज्वाइन करना चाहें उस रूट में, यानी लंदन से ये रूट शुरू होगा, ब्रेडफोर्ड से, और फ्रांस से, इटली से, ग्रीस से होता हुआ, टर्की और ईरान से होता हुआ ये पाकिस्तान एंटर होगा. एक तो आपके लिए ज़रूरी है कि आप अपने वीज़ाज़ ऑब्टेन करें जहाँ जहाँ के लिए आपको वीज़ा चाहिए. दूसरा, आपके लिए ये भी बात ज़रूरी है कि प्रोग्राम के आखिर में अरशद साहब वो अपनी जो वेबसाइट का एड्रेस वगैरह है वो आपको बताएंगे सारा. अगर आप यूरोप के किसी भी हिस्से से इनको ज्वाइन करना चाहें तो आप कर सकते हैं, लेकिन उसके लिए शर्त ये है, जिस तरह से जॉर्ज ने कहा, कि आपको पहले रजिस्टर करना होगा, ताकि इनको ये श्योर करना है कि आप कोई भी नहीं हैं और आप बिल्कुल सिंसियर हैं और इस कॉज से आपको एक मोहब्बत है, लगाव है, जिसके लिए आप जा रहे हैं. Coming back again to the convoy.
Yeah.
When you're leaving London, Bradford, what will you be doing on your way? Will you stopping
Yes.
yourself in France or in any other countries? Or
Where we think we can rally people, we'll hold political rallies. Where we can't, we'll be a moving propaganda tableau, like a moving set of posters attracting attention to the suffering in Kashmir and the legitimacy of the people's demand for self-determination. But in the big cities, in the capitals, we'll hold public events and invite local media and local people to join us. And at the very least, by the time we leave those cities, they'll know more about Kashmir than they did before we arrived.
Right. अर्शद साहब, इसी हवाले से जो कोई डेट्स वगैरह हैं, आपने कुछ डिसाइड की हैं अभी तक या?
डेट्स हमने टेम्पररीली कुछ रखी है, लेकिन अभी तक वो जो है
आप समझते हैं कि वो?
जी हाँ, हम समझते हैं कि 21 सितंबर या 28 सितंबर
थोड़ा बहुत आप समझते हैं कि आगे पीछे
हो सकता है कि कुछ लोगों ने कहा कि फिर अक्टूबर में हज का भी पीरियड आ रहा है।
अच्छा।
वो सब देखते हुए हम अरेंज करेंगे, लेकिन अभी तक ऐसा लगता है कि वो सितंबर में बीच में कहीं
अच्छा,
चला जाएगा।
हमारे नाजरीन को, देखने वालों को थोड़ी सी ये इन्फॉर्मेशन दे दें कि ब्रिटिश या यूरोपियन पासपोर्ट के ऊपर उस जर्नी पे किस किस मुल्क का उनको वीज़ा चाहिए?
यूरोप में किसी वीज़ा नहीं चाहिए किसी को भी।
अच्छा,
वो
ईरान का वीज़ा?
ईरान का वीज़ा चाहिए, बिल्कुल। तुर्की का वीज़ा चाहिए,
तुर्की और ईरान का वीज़ा चाहिए,
पाकिस्तान का ऑब्वियसली चाहिए। अगर आप नादरा कार्ड नहीं है तो वो
सही है
का होना चाहिए। ये सब को, जैसे गालोवे साहब ने कहा है, अपना वीज़े का बंदोबस्त कर सकते हैं यहाँ जाने से पहले ही। और फिर अगर हम ट्राई कर रहे हैं कि इंडिया को एंटर करने का, उधर भी हमें वीज़ा अप्लाई करना होगा या जो कुछ उधर बेहतर समझें वो करेंगे। तो अगर कोई इंटरेस्टेड है, कोई हिस्सा लेना चाहता है, जैसे आपने पहले से पूछा कि वो गाज़ा में आपने पूछा था ना कि कैसा रिएक्शन था उनका, तो मैं ये कहूँगा कि जब इजिप्ट में हमें अटैक भी हुआ, वहाँ उनकी मुबारक की गवर्नमेंट थी, हमें इंजरीज़ भी काफ़ी 50 से ज़्यादा लोग इंजर भी हुए, फिर भी उन लोगों ने छोड़ी नहीं हिम्मत। तो जब वो गाज़ा में एंटर हुए तो मुझे याद है, आई थिंक इट वाज 1:30 in the morning when we entered Gaza.
Yes, it was.
जब
So you were actually attacked by Hosni Mubarak regime.
Oh, we were repeatedly.
With guns and tanks and everything.
You know, the scandal over how Mubarak's regime handled these convoys played a small part in his downfall. It may have been one of the last straws for the Egyptian people to see this huge group of foreigners who had come to the aid of the Palestinians being attacked by their security forces, controlled by their dictator, was too much to bear for the people of Egypt. It's not the main reason he fell, of course, but it's a small reason.
All right. Arshad was mentioning about India as well, that you're also planning for India.
Yeah.
Your history with the Indians are not very good in terms of visa. Though they have never denied your visa, you always needed your passport to travel around.
Exactly.
So last time when you applied for a visa, they've put the condition, they've sent a fax to your office saying that if you're not taking Convoy to Kashmir, then we can grant you a visa for a same day. And you replied to them that, yes, I am going to take the Convoy. Now, do you think that in these circumstances, if you'll apply the visa, is there any chance that you see that they'll give you a visa?
I don't think they'll give me a visa, but they will have to deal with the fact that all of us will be applying for visas. And if they refuse them, that must be because they have something to hide. And we know what they have to hide. Their guilty secret, unfortunately, it's still a secret to most people, is that 800,000 Indian soldiers are occupying, in the most brutal fashion, a people and a territory that doesn't want them, and which was promised, moreover, by the United Nations more than 60 years ago, that they could exercise their own right of self-determination. And that's the essence of this case. So India can either allow us in, or it can refuse us, and that will add to the public perception and the argument that they are trying to conduct their grisly occupation under cover of darkness. And that will, I hope, God willing, merely hasten its end.
All right. When you talk about Convoy to Kashmir. Repeatedly you have said it, that this is not a charitable thing, you know. This is a pure political issue. Why would you say that this is a pure
Well,
political
because
issue?
British charity law was already strict, and with the appointment of a right-wing, pro-American, pro-Israel fanatic called William Shawcross as the charity commissioner, it just got tougher. And he, in his first address, made clear that he will not tolerate charities being political. So, we are political. We say that the suffering of the Kashmiris is not because of strong winds or heavy rains or the quaking of the earth. The suffering in Kashmir is because of political decisions made by politicians in Delhi and the armed forces that they send to carry those decisions out. So there's nothing charitable about it. It's politics, it's solidarity, and it's human rights.
It's politics, it's solidarity, and it's human rights. Now, if I remember a couple of years back, Lord Nazir Ahmed, when he was going to Pakistan and he was trying to help people there and put democracy back on track, Pervez Musharraf and his government, they wrote a letter to the British government saying that your Lord is interfering in our political system. So do you see any agitation coming from India as well by you doing all this?
Yes, they are very angry when we raise the banner and the cause of Kashmir. You'll recall that I was one of those responsible when I was in the Labour Party for changing the Labour Party's policy on Kashmir for the first time into one in favour of self-determination. And when Labour was elected, Robin Cook, God rest his soul, went to India and expressed this new policy of the Labour Party in India, and it caused such a tremendous ruction that he was accused of embarrassing the Queen and all sorts. So India is very sensitive to this. And may I just make this point, that I'm not in any way against India. Only a fool could be against India, one of the greatest, mightiest, and most ambitious and happening countries on the earth. Neither am I in favor of breaking up India. Some people are. I'm not. I never supported separatism.
So you don't support the Mujahideen factor in India or interference of anyone else to...
No, for example, I'm frequently invited to support Khalistanis and to support separatists in this part or that part of the country. And I never do, I never have, and I never will. I don't want to see India breaking up. But Kashmir is a special case. It should never have been in India in the first place. It is in India by captivity. It's in India in the way that a captive is in a prison. And in this case, international law is clear. The people of Kashmir were awarded the right to self-determination, and it continues to be denied to them. So my activities on Kashmir are not against India, they're not for the breakup of India, they're for the rights of the people of Kashmir, that's all.
All right, you visited Kashmir line of control in 1990s, early 1990s. Now you're going back again in 2013. Difference of 23 years. In these 23 years, hundreds and thousands of people, they got killed. Uncountable people, they got disappeared. What do you think, what should be done or what could be done to prevent this situation where Kashmir is today?
Well, of course, I'm not Superman, and I'm not pretending that I'm going to free the people of Kashmir. But what I promise is that more people will know about what's happening in Kashmir as a result of our activities than know now. More politicians will know, more politicians will be under pressure to do something, and we will try to organize Pakistani, Kashmiri, and other sympathetic audiences, Muslim audiences and others, to put pressure on their politicians to actually do something about this situation. India is occupying Kashmir without paying any political price in the world, and that's something we intend to change. We want to put the price up, at least, for India of its continued crimes in Kashmir.
Say, अर्शद साहब, कॉन्वॉय के हवाले से हम बात कर रहे हैं, अब तक कितने लोग रजिस्टर हो चुके हैं आपके साथ?
मैं थोड़ी सी बात ख़त्म करना चाहूँ कि जो पहले से मैं कर रहा था कि आपने पूछा था कि क्यों कश्मीर के, तो जैसे वीवो पालस्तीना की वजह से वो उन्होंने आवाज़ उठाई और एक तंजीम बनाई, इसीलिए आपको भी अच्छा पता होगा, मुझे भी पता है, आप शायद मुझसे थोड़े छोटे हैं तो आपको भी पता होगा कि बचपन से हम सुनते आए हैं कि लोग कश्मीर का नारा लगाते हैं, आज़ाद होगा, ये होगा, वो होगा, और सैकड़ों लोग बैठे होते हैं, तकरीरें होती हैं और फिर वो बोटियां खाकर घर चले जाते हैं और वो कश्मीर का मसला वहाँ की वहाँ रह जाता है। तो हमने ये तय किया है कि हम सिर्फ बोटियां नहीं खाएंगे, ना खिलाएंगे, ना नारे लगाएंगे, हम एक प्रैक्टिकल तरफ से, जैसे गाज़ा की तरफ से किया था, एक प्रैक्टिकल टर्म्स में, कि दुनिया को पता चले कि ये मसला इतने सालों से हो रहा है, क्यों हो रहा है, सारी दुनिया को पता चले कि जो जुल्म हो रहा है, जो डिसअपीयरेंसेस हो रही हैं, जो रेप्स हो रही हैं, जो लोगों का पता ही नहीं चलता, दिन रात लोग गायब हो जाते हैं और इतना जुल्म हो रहा है और किसी दुनिया को किसी को पता ही नहीं है। हम ये पता लगा कर छोड़ेंगे, हर किसी को बताएंगे कि क्या हो रहा है। अगर वो मैं आता हूँ कि कैसे लोग इन्वॉल्व हो सकते हैं, अगर आप हिस्सा लेना चाहते हैं तो इन द नेक्स्ट फ्यू डेज़, certainly by the weekend, I've spoken to colleagues today who are working on it, एक वेबसाइट जो है ना वो सेटअप होगा, it will be called convoytokashmir.com. On there will be registration forms and all the details, सब information जो हम यहाँ discuss कर रहे हैं और भी वो सब वहाँ होगा. Go online, download the registration form, fill it in, and then you can return it online as well, so we don't have to deal with paper. Secondly, as Mr. Galloway mentioned before, there is a registration fee of £149 per person, and that will go towards various miscellaneous costs around the convoy. Secondly, if people are interested, they can go on our Twitter group, which is called again Convoy to Kashmir. Follow that. Alternatively, as well as that, you can also follow Convoy to Kashmir.
Can you repeat
Facebook.
once more your Twitter group again?
It's Convoy to Kashmir, right? Website will be set up in the next few days.
All right.
By the weekend, at all costs, I hope. Convoy to Kashmir Facebook, Convoy to Kashmir Twitter. So if anybody wants to keep in touch, then join the groups on Twitter or Facebook, and it's called Convoy to Kashmir. And all the information that we have will be updated there. और अगर लोगों को ज़्यादा information चाहिए तो website weekend खुला होगा, वहाँ they can start registering. At the moment we've got these packs, registration packs हैं, लेकिन I would prefer कि वे online हो जाए सबको, we don't have to clutter.
So it'll be easy for them to
So
download.
keep a lookout on the Facebook,
ठीक है।
Twitter, Facebook, Convoy to Kashmir.
क्योंकि हमारे पास वक्त थोड़ा सा कम है,
जी
तो मैं चाहूँगा कि मैं जॉर्ज गैलोवे साहब से कुछ और सवालात हैं। जॉर्ज, one of the last questions to you is that until Iran, I personally don't see any problem. But once you enter in Pakistan, Balochistan, these days, we've got plenty of groups. So since you had good relations with Pakistani governments, do you think that would it be a good idea to involve a government in,
Sure.
so you know they can escort you from Balochistan to the safest possible place?
Yes, and we expect that they will do that. We have conveyed our congratulations to the new Prime Minister. The current President of Pakistan knows all about this convoy. So already in the corridors of the government of Pakistan, they're aware that we're coming and of our need to be protected. But I believe in belt as well as braces. So we are appealing to all political groups, all armed groups and unarmed groups in Balochistan to unite, at least to give us safe passage, because the purpose for which we're traveling through Balochistan is merely to come to the aid of the people of Kashmir, and that's a sacred cause to all of them. And so I'm not myself expecting any difficulties from any of the parties or groups involved in the various struggles in Balochistan. I myself have not visited Balochistan before. I'm looking forward to doing so. And I'm hoping that we get a warm welcome by everyone.
More or less, it's a 21 days journey.
Yes.
You said it that most likely it will be a one-way trip.
Yes.
Have you decided and have you worked all the earthwork and how it will be, the feasibility and everything? Have you worked everything on it?
I think that our arrival in Mirpur will be pretty sensational. I think that we'll have many tens of thousands of people will turn out to receive this convoy. Bear in mind that in publicity terms it's a rolling program. So you have 21 days to get used to the fact that we're arriving. And my experience in previous convoys is that really builds anticipation. But as to the exact campsites and so on that we'll be pitching our tents in, not yet, but Arshad is working hard on that. And by long before we leave, people will know that on day 11, we'll be, God willing, here. On day 18, God willing, we'll be here.
All right. If with the bus, model 1964, you're able to meet 3 million people,
yes.
Do you really think that with all this big convoy, it will be more than that and it will put some pressure on the Indian government?
Well, I hope that it's massive. Not because I think that if it's massive, the Indian government will back down. I frankly don't. But because it will show the people in the occupied land that we care, that millions of us care, that they are not forgotten, that their sacrifice is not in vain, that it's respected and saluted by the Ummah, Muslim and non-Muslim, who care about freedom and liberty. And therefore, I hope that all the way through Iran and once we reach Balochistan and right up to the line of control, that millions turn out for us. And that will at least cheer the hearts of the people living under this brutal occupation.
All right, the last question to you is that would you like to convey any message to the people they want to join your convoy here in Europe or any part of the world, and then once you're in Pakistan, so any message to them?
Yes, just be sensible about it. If your vehicle is a clapped out old Morris Minor that won't likely reach Brighton, with all gratefulness and respect to you, please don't come. At least not in your battered old Morris Minor. I've done the 1964 route master to Baghdad. It broke down every day. And that's how I lost my hair, actually. The difficulty of that journey.
I'm just going to interrupt you on that. If you need more information on journey to Baghdad in 1990, you can always go to YouTube, Big Band to Baghdad. I believe that's it.
Big Band to Baghdad.
Big Band
it's a good
to
film,
Baghdad.
Yeah.
So you've got all that documentary film, all the information is there for you to learn. Are they allowed to bring their Porsche and Ferraris or?
Yes, it's up to them. And in Bradford, we have many flashy cars. Some of the youth drive very flashy cars. No, look, the point of it is to attract attention so that people say, what's that about? Why are these people driving all the way from England to Kashmir? What's happening in Kashmir? Why are they protesting? Why do they need to relieve suffering there? This is look, I've long believed, and you know this as a very high quality and experienced journalist, that if you create heat, with the heat comes some light, and in that light, more people can see than saw before. That's why I get involved in
Brother Arshad had said something very nice before, that what I have experienced since from the childhood until now, that every year, 2, 3, 4 times, 3, 4, 500 people, 600 people, 1,000 people, we gather, we do the speech, and we have a very luxury food and everything, and we talk about Kashmir, Kashmir banega Pakistan, Kashmir banega Pakistan, and all those nares, and then we go home and nothing. So this is a very practical mission. We salute you for all this, for your braveness, for what you're doing for us. I must say, it's a very big honor for us that we've got a person like George Galloway who's really looking after, whether it's in 1990 in Baghdad, whether it's in 2008 in Gaza, whether it's 2010 in Gaza. You went to Gaza, regardless of whatever happened, all the attacks and everything. So thank you very much for being today here in the show.
Thank you.
And,
La shukra ala wajib, as we say in Arabic. Don't thank me for doing my duty. It's wajib.
It's wajib. Thank you very much. Arshad Saab, any last words from you?
Yes, I think everybody should passionately get involved with this. As Mr. Galloway said, we don't care what political party anybody has affiliations with. If you agree that Kashmir should have the right of self-determination, let's form a coalition of just people and take this mobile demonstration. If people want to... One thing I will finish off with, when we entered Gaza and when we left, this gentleman gave me a big hug and he kissed me on my face and he said, you know what, more than the aid that you bring to us, much more than that, meaningful is your presence, that you come from your own country, thousands of miles to be with us. That is, will stay with us forever. Because what does a man need if he's in prison? He just needs a visitor, somebody to come and see him, give him a little bit of hope. Same thing with Kashmir. Millions of people there will see that people across the world do care, and we do all care, but how can we care? We have to put our plan into action, practical terms, and go there. So if anybody wants to get involved, most welcome. Convoy to Kashmir, Facebook, Twitter, and the website will be up in the next few days. Everybody is welcome.
बहुत शुक्रिया. Thank you very much, George, for being with us today. Thank you very much, अर्शद साहब. नाजरीन, जॉर्ज गैलवे एक ऐसी शख्सियत का नाम है कि जिसने हमेशा मुसलमानों के लिए बहुत कुछ किया है, और ये हमारे लिए लम्हा फ़िक्रिया है कि जहाँ पे हमारे मुसलमान लीडरान, दुनिया भर के मुसलमान लीडरान सो के बैठे हुए हैं, फ़लस्तीन हो, बर्मा हो, कश्मीर हो, अफ़गानिस्तान हो, जहाँ पे भी हो रहा है इसका पुरअमन सलूशन होना चाहिए. और अर्शद साहब ने बहुत खूबसूरत बात की कि आपकी प्रेजेंस कभी कभी बहुत बड़ा फ़र्क पैदा कर देती है सिचुएशन में. अपने मेज़बान मतलूब ताहिर को इस दुआ के साथ इजाज़त दीजिए कि अल्लाह ताला आपका और हम सब का हामी और नासिर हो. खुदा हाफ़िज़.